This video will demonstrate how you can use HTML technologies to create an interactive application. You can then use DocProtect running on a Mac computer to wrap that into a protected licensed application on Mac. You can do similar on Windows, Linux, or even Android. First, let's look at our source folder that has a set of HTML files. And we have a bunch of nested files and folders, and here's our main HTML file that, when launched, presents our application. So let's adjust this web browser a bit, and you can see the application basically is a set of questions, multiple choice, where the user reads the question, makes a selection, goes on to the next one, and so on. And the goal here is to take this folder of files and wrap that into an application and apply an icon to it. So we have an ICS-CNS file, which is a Mac icon, or if we were running this on a Windows computer, we would use the .ico file on Windows. And we're going to be doing this with DocProtect. Within the DocProtect application, we've set up a record of information to construct our application. So we've named the record, given a name to the main viewing window, and the name to the generated application itself. We have selected for type HTML offline, indicating that all these HTML files are going to be embedded within our generated application, so it can be used without any internet connection. So this folder is to the HTML files, and the main entry point, the HTML file within that folder. And then here we have a path to the icon we want to apply, and finally to the output folder where we're going to put the generated application. On the options panel, we have this selected to generate a universal binary application, so it runs native on either 64-bit Intel or 64-bit ARM Mac computers. And we've set the initial viewer constraint size of the window here. So we set it to 900 by 600 pixels. We can make it resizable if we'd like, or center it, and some other options as well. So once we have everything set up the way we want, we're just going to click the build button, and it's going to build our finished application. And then we can click the run button and go ahead and run it, or the little arrow to the right will actually open us into the output folder to see our finished application. If we double click on the application icon, it just launches into our named application window, and the user can navigate through the application by selecting radio buttons here and clicking on buttons. But they can't see any of the file names, they can't view any of the source code or print the application. Set up a different type of project. In this example, we're going to use the HTML online option, and we're actually going to upload our entire folder of HTML content to some hidden location on a web server. We have the URL of the main file here. We have the path to the icon file that we want to apply, and the path to the output folder where we'll generate the finished application. We've given a name to the main application window and the application file itself here. And if we go to the options panel, in this case we're generating a 64-bit Intel binary, it runs on a Mac computer. We've set our size of our viewing window. In this case we've made it resizable. On the license panel, we've selected simple, which is one of the types of licenses built into the DocProtect application itself. You can do a simple license either with a manual activation process or with an online serial number activation process. So we're going to start with the manual process first, and we'll click the build button, and we're now building our application, and it will be placed into the output folder. Here we see our finished online application, It's going to work essentially the same after we activate. It's just going to, the application itself is going to be a bit smaller since all the content is streamed from the internet. So when launched, the user is presented with an enter password dialog showing a unique password number. They give that to the developer. The developer puts it into this field here. They click the password button, and that's the password that's going to be needed to activate this application to their computer. And now they're up and running, and everything essentially works the same as before. To demonstrate online serial number activation, we've come back to DocProtect, and in the license panel, we're going to put the URL of an automated web page from a safe activation account to handle this online serial number activation process. So to get this, we've filled in a page of information in a safe activation account and generated a batch of serial numbers linked to that product. And then after placing this URL here and setting the checkbox, we're ready to build our application. So let's go and locate that application right here. And this time, when we launch the application, we're going to be presented with the dialog to accept a serial number. And the serial number can be given to the user during the purchase process, and then without vendor assistance, the user can just enter that serial number and activate the application. Of course, once the application is activated, each launch thereafter just starts running when the user double-clicks on the application. In this video, we've demonstrated how you can wrap a collection of HTML files into a desktop application. You can also put the content on a server and make it available as a desktop application. That application could be licensed with an offline activation process or an online serial number activation process. There's other features in DocProtect that you may want to take advantage of as well. For example, on the license panel, you can select a single license that will be defined within the quick license application, or a try-by license or a try-by subscription type license. Based on which option you select, you'll use quick license to define your time-limited trial license or your perpetual license or your subscription license and generate a ticket and then select it from this panel. And then that will control how the license works and all the other advanced features that come with the quick licensing system. So we can also apply a splash screen. If we go to the splash screen window, we can first select an image. If we want a splash screen, we need kind of the base image of the splash screen, and then we have some various options, including we can add text at the top of the screen, bottom of the screen, text in the middle of the screen. We can also add a URL on the screen that when clicked takes the user to a website. On the contents panel, we may decide that within our application, rather than just one entry point, we actually want to have multiple entry points and present that to the user in a table of contents. And so the way you do that is we define each URL if the content is online, or we just, if it was an offline HTML application, we'll have a select button where we can just select the actual HTML file within the main folder and give it a title. So we construct essentially a table of contents, and then when we build this into an application, the user is presented with that table of contents, and then they can click on an item and it takes them to that aspect of the application. And if they close the viewing window, they're immediately returned back to the table of contents where they can navigate to a different place in the application or close it altogether.